Yo, 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 what is up? It is Cloverdale. We are back for another tutorial. We're walking through my track Up All Night, which is out now with Baba No Baby on Thrive. If you haven't heard it, go stream it up. I'd love if you checked it out. This is a super fun ravey one. Today in this video, we're going over the leads and the effects and some of the arrangement and some of the, like, how I kind of keep some of the energy in the track. We already went over the drums. You can check that out here. That's always the first thing I do. And then we moved on to the kick and the bass. You can check that out here. And lastly, over here, if you want to like and subscribe, that would be incredible. I'd love you so much. Okay, let's dive into this right now. So right now we're going to be working on, I'm going to show you how I did these leads.
Losing my mind over you, Rob.
All right, cool. So, very, very fun ravey leads. What I want to talk about is kind of how I arrived here. And that's all that matters at the end of the day is how you arrived here. And, you know, you could get the sounds from a sample. You can get them from a synth. You can get them from this. It's just about getting them into your DAW, processing them so that it works with your track. I made, well, I got these leads. I won't even say I made them. It initially came from a preset in Serum from the Seven Skies pack. I got to shout this guy out majorly. He's an insane sound designer that has done tons of sound designing for years and years, and his stuff is always top. So I think this one came from the Fishbird 3 pack, and it's called Shoot. But I always am just like surfing through presets. I'm shameless about it because what I like to do is just take something that someone else has made and then, you know, sculpt it, morph it to get it to work with my track and to get it sounding hype as hell. Yeah, so and ultimately this sound is super simple. I really could have made this pretty simply myself. It's just a couple saw waves with some modulation on them, and then you know, hyperdimension, some width, a bunch of distortion, and then some phasers chorus and EQs. You know, very straightforward. And then yeah. A lot of the detuning is coming from the ring mod from A. So let's talk about the pattern and the writing process here. I would have already had sort of like an idea once I heard this lead, like, oh shit, like this is one that I can have playing throughout the track, and it's gonna be a kind of a crazy rave lead. And so I was thinking that when I was writing the melody, right? I was like, is this lead going to sound great if I have it playing really long notes? Probably not. Is it going to sound great if I have it arping? Probably not, because it's going to be like if I had this every single note arping around, you know, it's too busy. It's too busy. You know, it's just sounding a little too wild, right? So you got to think about what type of, especially spacing and note length, is going to work best for the sound that you're using. And if you know, maybe you want something different, maybe like if I wanted this to be an ARP, what I would do is I'd bring the decay time down and make it a lot tighter. You know, and then you could maybe use it as an ARP. So I figured out kind of like what spacing is going to work great. I love playing around with not always just sticking to like eighths, and you know, I'm always trying to hit a lot of 16th note bits here. So you can see boom, boom, boom. Also, major note before we move on too far, the in Ableton 11, the scale feature is the best thing ever. So my secret that I'm gonna let out. I think I let it out in the last video too. I write a lot of music in Phrygian. Phrygian I find is a little darker than minor. And so yeah, so I've selected Phrygian here, D sharp, and then you can hit this scale button and it'll just fold it down. And this way I can kind of mess around in all these notes. No matter where I play, what I do, they're all going to be in key. And so I just kind of built a little melody playing around. I wanted to make sure that I hit some 16th notes rather than if I just had it on the eighths everywhere. I wanted it to be hitting some 16ths, hitting some eighths, and just playing around. And I settled on this melody. And you know that there's I can't really go into too much detail on how to write melodies. It's so much trial and error. However, one thing that I do want to note is I have a pitch MIDI effect on here. I actually use these quite often, just if I want to quickly test out something like an octave down or not. So if I wanted to pitch this down an octave, I can just hold shift and use the arrow keys to move it down an octave. And, you know, it's just a lot quicker than doing, going in here and either moving the notes. That's another option. Or going in here and shifting the octaves here. That's another option. But I find the pitch one works great. But here I pitched it up 7 semitones, which actually takes the whole thing and moves it up a fifth, which we talked about before when I was talking about pitching my kick drums. I always pitch my kick drums the same. Basically creating a power chord. And this one, and they're actually both pitched up 7. Yeah, and probably what happened is I probably wrote the melody down here at 0, which sounds like this. Which is sounding cool. I'm enjoying it. But again, I just wanted to try something out. I probably tried it an octave up. I was like, maybe that's a little high. So I do this all the time. I'll try it at this octave, try it at the other octave, and then I'll try it, 7 semitones up, and or 5 semitones down, same deal. And I'll just try it there and decide. And that was the one for me. It kind of stuck out the most. This down here is a layer, and it's just it's the same thing, just an octave down, I do believe. Same thing, minus one of the oscillators. So it's just a simpler sound. Probably, it's pretty much the exact same sound. Got rid of the dimension on it rather than, keeping the hyper. But the dimension sometimes adds a weird room sound. And I find it can get a little messy at times. So got rid of that. So this is just sort of a layer that's adding some more, beef and support to this top layer. Together... So yeah, not doing too much, just adding a little bit of support. Not too much going here in terms of processing. Some OTT on that one, some OTT on this one. They're probably identical. And a lot of the processing I do on the group. So let's talk about that for a second. Here, let me just turn it off, turn everything off, show you unprocessed. So basically, very similar, just a little weaker. We have decapitator, adding some tape saturation, some warmth, some analog sounds. I'm always trying to reach for things that will make my songs feel a little warmer, feel a little more analog, feel a little crunchier, like it's running through a guitar amp or something. Our ears love that sort of like vintage sound mixed with, the computer sounds that we're generating here. Auto filter, which is doing quite a bit of work throughout, right? I love automating my tracks and having them constantly moving. So throughout the track, you'll see me, filtering in and filtering out this lead, especially in the builds and stuff here. Some more EQ, OTT again, but you'll notice on my OTTs, I will never have them like 30-40%. I'm always at the amount 9%, not a lot, right? We're just adding a little bit. Endless smile in the build-ups. Just let's check that out. Where? And so it's just adding some hypeness in the build-ups. That's it. This delay, and really I probably should have this in the chain much earlier. This is going to make much more sense much earlier, but I guess if Yeah. What this is doing is this is kind of creating a bit of a metallic sound. I use this effect often, and so let me just turn it. I'll turn it up quite a bit so you can hear it. So it's ping ponging. So we're getting some stereo effects there, and because I have this set. This is regular beat sync mode. So here the delay is synced to a beat. If you go here, it's going to sync to time. And if you set the time to really, really short, like look at what we're looking at here, like 25 milliseconds, something like that, and it'll sound like this really sort of weird, tight, delayed, metallic sound. It also sounds really cool on vocals. I actually do it on this track too. I'll show you that. So, and I'll just added a little bit of that. Also adds some nice stereo width to it too. More OTT, of course. Sausage fattening. It's not doing much. Just more driving. At this point, like why I chose to do all these is like, as I'm producing the song, as I'm working it through, I might be like, you know what? Like that lead is working, but I just wish it was like a little louder or a little crunchy or a little something. And sometimes you might want it to be more present, but you don't always want it to necessarily be louder. And so that's when you're starting to reach for compression and saturation tools to kind of like give it some presence and some crunch without always just having to turn up the volume. So that was sort of the processing there. It runs then to my sidechain bus, which is my main big sidechain bus that I used in my bass line and everything, which sucks out quite a bit when the kick plays. I also have it sending to the room reverb, right? This is the same reverb I send my drums to. It's the same reverb I send as much as my stuff to. I'm pretty sure it might be the only reverb in this song, and it's just set. And that's the best thing. When you have, only one reverb, you're not going to have all kinds of different reverb tails clashing with each other. It's going to feel like all the song belongs in one space. And yeah. So that's the lead, and it really didn't do too much else. It goes back and forth between the octaves here, so it plays one octave, then it goes down an octave, plays another one, it goes down. And then, in this build-up, I just took this first little bit of the melody and looped it, and then, yeah. So... There we go. Wicked. Okay, let's talk about the effects a little bit and sort of the arrangement of the track. So my effects, let's look down in this first build here, and we'll take a look. We'll kind of go through. So first off, I have these sweeps for days. I made these sweeps a long time ago, and it basically is just one file that sweeps into itself forever. It's the same. I can kind of like extend it out if I want, and it'll just sort of keep sweeping into itself. These are just sort of these white noise. Wow. It's like you're at sea, at the ocean. But what's great about this, and I encourage you guys to try and like make something similar. You could do it just by, taking one sweep and another sweep, reversing it, filtering it, automating it. But what's great is like I'm kind of always in motion. It's going down, okay, and then it's going up, and then it's going down, it's going up. And that, I think, helps the track kind of move forward and kind of I'm always on to the next thing, Okay, and that sort of motion, I think, helps create a lot of energy in a track. So that is one thing that I have. Let's some other just regular white noise sweeps in my build-ups. I have a vinyl crackle effects, classic. I don't actually do this in all my tracks, but if it's a track that I feel like could benefit from it, I do try it out. And that's something. It's like try things out. I try out a lot of things in every track, and then just sit there and decide, okay, does it need it? Does it not? And do that. Don't always just assume that, okay, I do this in every track, so I need to do it in this track. really try to take an analytical approach and be like, hey, wait, like, does this really, really need this? And yeah, here we go. We got a string here, I do believe. Classic. Nothing says rave music like that string, right? Definitely a bit of a trope, as well as some of these other things like brass, you know, filling out that low end. But these sort of things are just so atmospheric. Let me just turn all of these on right now. I also have this vocal scream, but if I turn all of these on right now, it's basically just creating a bit of another brass here. Creating a bed, an atmosphere. It's not the focus, it's just sort of filling out the background. The lead is a bit more the focus. But I can use all of these elements as sort of build-up elements too, right? Do I have... in this case, I was wondering if I had some more like automations on some of these things that have them open up. Oftentimes, you know, I'll have, say, an auto filter on this brass, and throughout this whole section, have it open up, right? And that throughout that is just saying, I'm kind of building up, I'm building energy. And when you are looking for more energy in your buildups, this is the simplest way. Automate everything. It will help drastically. I do it in this, even in this riser, it's kind of building up here. You know, I would have felt it had too much high end. So filter out that high end, and it's just opening up over time. I have a riser here that I built myself. Risers are fun to make. In this case, what am I? I'm not really automating. Here we go. So I got the filter cutoff and the pitch bend. So that's it. It's just opening up the filter and pitching it up. Let's look at Serum. Wow, look at how crazy and wild this sound design is. We have a saw wave with 14 voices, so very wide, and big old super saw. Basically, I'm just automating this, the cutoff, and then this, the pitch bend. And it's just that's all I got. That's the whole thing. I'm almost embarrassed that I'm showing you guys that riser. That is some basic shit, but if it you know, filled the need and got the job done. This here, I do believe, is a kind of a texture from a factory. I really wanted some industrial type sounds in the track because ultimately that was the vibe that I was trying to capture. A warehouse, industrial, raging, techno kind of vibe. And so these are factory sounds from a factory of sorts. This one too. Some sort of machine starting up or something. And I think I actually may... I guess not. I thought it might have pitched up there. But I guess the sample itself kind of has the as the machine's starting up, it's pitching up, which, you know, worked as a great riser effect. And I think that I actually love how this sound fits in here. Listen to it with the whole track. Boom, 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 boom. Sick. As well, on these leads, I realized so we're automating the filter cutoff and the envelope release time. I didn't even talk about this. Wow. But only in the build-ups. So basically, as this is building, the notes are ringing out longer as well. It's not just the endless smile. The release time and the cutoff. And the auto filter here, and the endless smile, and oh, it also turns down in volume. I didn't even mention that either. Gosh. So it's turning, the leads are turning down in volume as well. So a bunch of automation going, right? And that's just because if I didn't do that, listen how loud these leads would sound if I didn't automate that down. So you kind of, without that, you don't really hear the up. And I really liked that bit in the vocals, the up, up. This. So that was why I did it. I was just like, okay, where do I want the listener to focus their attention on? This lead, which was already, pretty blasting. They'd already heard it for a bit, or this cool little vocal effect. And so just turning the volume down there. Nothing wild or crazy. Okay, what else are we missing on this? I have a war horn type beat. And this is probably just pitched up real high. This one. Just with a ton of reverb on it. And that's just adding some ambience. All right, that is pretty much everything in terms of effects and leads. My advice to you guys is don't overthink it, but also try to fill things out. Fill out those atmospheres, those background elements. They will kind of help you bring your track to life. Something else. Look in this last drop. Just in the last drop, I had a little crowd. Wow, make it sound extra hype. Classic. Listen to that. Is that cheating? I don't know. Makes your tracks sound more hype. I don't care. A little vocal blip. Yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of it there, folks. The only other thing, we got the snare build. The snare build is so simple. Just a MIDI note with a filter, and then right at the end, this is my favorite little bit, little trap fill. And I'm just going, 30-second notes there for a second. That's all. Anyways, folks, that is kind of the leads and the effects and some of the arrangement, how you kind of keep some of the energy. Try to keep things moving, always automate everything and have it moving forward, have it kind of driving, have some energy transfer moments. And that's that. Up next, we're going to be covering the vocals. You can click it right here. And showing you how I took Baba's voice and got it to sound as dope as it sounds. Here's a hint. It's mostly just him. He sounds sick. All right. Thank you guys so much. Link to join our High Octane Club Discord server in the bio below as well. The High Octane drum kit available for sale is my sample pack and a bunch of drums to produce this kind of music if you like it. My name's Cloverdale. Hope you guys have been enjoying. I'll see you soon. Love you.